Hello all. Where would you like to ride today? The countryside? How about the city? Maybe a mountain forest? Or a sandy beach? No matter how far away, or in our own backyard, I hope you'll ride along. Hello all, and good early morning to you. It is just after 3 o'clock in the morning. This is a Wednesday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. And we are about to hit the open road, headed straight for the mountains. Now, as you should already know, I live in the mountains, but we're going much deeper into them. We're going to be stopping in a few towns along the way, but for today, our main destination is Clayton and Hiawassee, Georgia. And we are just now leaving Mount Airy, North Carolina. Just got gas, full tank of gas, and we are on US Highway 601 South right now, headed toward Dobson, North Carolina, so we can hit I-77. I know it's a bit dark for you at the moment, so probably not going to be doing that much filming on the road today until it gets daylight, because, need to save as much storage as I can for footage during the day. So I'll just go ahead and probably after this we'll cut right till our first actual stop, not counting where we're stopping to rest. But a little background on this trip. So I might have mentioned, I can't remember, in a past live stream on Instagram or something, that we were planning on taking a trip to Pennsylvania. Well, that kind of fell through, so we scrapped that plan and are taking a trip that we had planned on taking last fall, and due to a conflict in schedules, actually our show in Cincinnati, that actually made us cancel those plans, and so now we're finally getting to take that trip today. But where we're heading to is kind of a very special area for me. To paint the scene a little better for you, the date was July 25th, 2013. I was not really at a great state in my life. I had dropped out of college just a few months prior. I was just getting out of a kind of a rough relationship, working at what turned out to be definitely a dead-end job. I should have really known it at the time, but wasn't really thinking about that way then. And I just felt the need to get away. I just had to hit the open road. Really no clue where I was going. And if you've watched the first installment of The Smoking Hour with Stephen Midnight and myself, you'll know that in that episode I kind of touched on the significance of this trip. There was no real place in mind I was going to go. I just knew I had to drive, so couldn't get too far with the car I had, and so really a day's drive away was about all I could make. So I set out at roughly 10 o'clock at night, hit the road, and headed for a little town called Hayesville, North Carolina. And we will be going there on this trip, but won't be spending too much time there. Want to see quite a bit of other things. But I knew absolutely nothing about this town. I had an old friend who I'd met years earlier on MySpace who was from this town. The only reason I even knew of its existence, and the only thing I even knew that was in this town, was a McDonald's. But I'd seen pictures of it. It was just a beautiful mountain town right along a lake, and I knew that's where I wanted to go, just to be away from everybody, go to the middle of nowhere, and that's exactly what I did. So, on a night, not like tonight, it's about 40 degrees out now. It was rather hot. It was a rather hot July night, the night I left. But, still, already pretty well dark, and I just headed out into the unknown. Had never been to this town before, had never been really anywhere that I was going. So, it was all brand new to me. I was, I had to make this kind of a soul-searching trip for myself. And this trip is what made me realize my passion for exploration, because I'd never been to these places before. And, as I was on the road, I had that sense of freedom, that I was in control of everything. Had no clue where I was going, but I had that freedom in me to decide. So, I've made this trip one other time, just a few years ago, to the same area. And even then, it was almost the same experience. I saw some other new things I'd never seen before, and that's what we're planning to do on this trip as well. Where we're heading today, I've never been to, so it'll be something completely brand new to me, and possibly to you all as well. We're going to see some filming locations on this trip. We're going to see some spooky, haunted locations on this trip. And we're going to see some things that were significant in my soul-searching trip, as I like to put it. But I know this last 10 minutes has just been a lot of boring, dark highway while I'm running my mouth. So I probably won't record again until we've got a little bit of daylight, which is still a good over 4 hours away now. But I hope you'll sit back and enjoy the ride and this extended episode of On the Road with Vincent. Alright, so it is now just about 8 o'clock. Been on the road for just a little over 5 hours now. Probably would have been a little bit further, but I got distracted about 25 minutes ago or so, and I don't remember what caught my eye. I think it was saw a river along the side of the road, and I just got mesmerized by it, I guess, and completely missed where I was supposed to turn. As you all have been watching me for any time know that I don't use a GPS, but we are just now outside of Sylva, North Carolina. We just passed the Museum of the American House Cat, or the American Museum of the House Cat, whatever it's called. Somewhere I've been wanting to go for a while, but haven't had a chance to yet. We're not far from Franklin, North Carolina. Probably going to stop and get some breakfast there before we make our way down into northern Georgia. So hang tight, and we'll see you in a second. Alright, so we are now in Franklin, North Carolina. Running about a little over an hour behind schedule, but really don't have too much to do today. Just getting to one destination, look around for a bit, and then pretty much get to where we're staying and see what's to see there. But we just have finished eating breakfast at a Huddle House. Now, if you saw my special where we went to Cincinnati for the band, I said that our go-to restaurant for breakfast is a Bob Evans, if we're in the area of one, rather than IHOP anymore. But a good little road trip restaurant I found that I think is slightly a bit more regional is the Huddle House. I'd never heard of one until about 12 or 13 years ago, somewhere in there, and never ate at one until just last year. But my opinion, far better than a Waffle House. And no, they're not quite as nice, so to say, as an IHOP or a Bob Evans. They're kind of that more classic diner feel to them, but very good food all the same. So going back to my first trip to this area back in 2013, I ended up, like I said, I left the house somewhere between 9 and 10 o'clock, and I drove and drove all through the night, and I stopped here in Franklin. Had never heard of this town before. I stopped at a Walmart. It was about 5:30 in the morning, and I slept for about 2 hours, and the sun come up on this little mountain town, and you know, it's not a very big town, but really nice if you actually get a chance to ride around here. And they've actually done a lot of developing since my first time here. Noticed that just a couple of years ago when we were back through here. So in reflection of my first trip, pretty much done the same thing today. Drove all through the early hours of the morning and saw the sun come up on Franklin, North Carolina. Now, as you can see, really is no sun out this morning. Been a very foggy drive for most of the morning, and I think that's also maybe why I missed my turn this morning. And really wouldn't have even realized that if it not been for a little bit down the road. I kept watching the river, and I started thinking to myself, I don't ever remember seeing the river follow the road for this long. And that's when it dawned on me that I had gone too far out of the way. But we're going to try our best to dodge any rain today. I think it's supposed to rain here in about the next half hour or so. And it's about another 40 minutes to our destination. So might just try to sit and wait out the rain before I get out. And we'll see. We'll see what all we can find when we get to our first destination. So I'll see you all then. All right, so we are now at Tallulah Gorge State Park, right around Tallulah Falls, Georgia. And we're just going to do a little bit of hiking right now. Hopefully this fog will dissipate soon enough so we can actually see something out here. But we're going to go see a few waterfalls out here, walk along the trail, and maybe see something y'all might recognize. Now, you'll have to forgive me as my French is a bit rusty, but we are standing over Lieu d'Or Falls here at Tallulah Gorge State Park. And if this looks any bit familiar to you, then you might be as big a fan of the film Deliverance as I am. These are the very falls that they went over as the wooden canoe breaks and Burt Reynolds' character Lewis breaks his leg. And over here, on this rock wall, is actually right about where John Voight actually scaled this mountain as he was doing his own stunts for the climbing. And right below would have been where Burt Reynolds and Ned Beatty were hiding as John Voight went off to kill the last mountain man. Now, if the falls don't look as raging today as they did in the film, that's because for the movie, they did release more water at the dam just upstream to make it look like it was a lot more of a roaring river than it actually is. Nonetheless, still just as beautiful. Now, it was along this ridge in July of 1970 that Carl Wallenda of the Flying Wallenda family actually crossed the gorge on a tightrope, being the second man to do so, the first being in 1883. But during Carl's crossing, he actually managed to pull off 2 handstands mid-tightrope. Okay, so time is now 2:30. We've been hiking since about 10:30, finished up right around 2. And yeah, so naturally you just got to see a lot of in the gorge and all the waterfalls. I have no idea if you'll be able to hear anything that I said in any of those videos, so I might have to do a voiceover dub in production, and most of that I just kind of wanted to let you hear the sounds of nature, sounds of the waterfall. Did pick up these little hike and stick medallion and a patch here. We do have a little trophy walking stick to put some of these on, but I just like the patch too. I picked up one of these, and I don't know what I would put this on. Not a Boy Scout vest, naturally, but I don't know, I'll figure out something for it. But we're going to get back up the road toward Clayton and then head over to Hiawassee, Georgia, where we will be staying for the night. Okay, we've been riding through the Chattahoochee National Forest, still in northern Georgia, and now finally coming into Hiawassee, right around Lake Chattahoochee. But we are still very deep in the mountains, and right now we are just trying to find our hotel because we have absolutely no signal down here, and we really don't even remember the name of it. So we're just gonna ride around till we see something that sounds familiar. Alright, so we finally did find our hotel, but before we get back to the room and get something to eat, we're actually heading up this very narrow mountain road. Headed up to the top of Bell Mountain. Now, this just happened to pop up on Google Maps when I was searching the area around our hotel, and I was just looking up different mountains around, and this one came up. Supposed to be a pretty nice overlook up here. Hopefully, it's raining just a little bit out now. Hopefully, no heavy stuff will come down while we're up here. But I figure we'll take a little ride and see what's to see up here. Okay, so as if hiking Tallulah Gorge wasn't enough hiking today, this was the steepest road I have ever drove on. Now, I've drove on roads much higher in elevation before, but our little Nissan Rogue barely wanted to climb this mountain. And so the last little bit, we just parked and walked up the last stretch of road. And at one point in the road, there was a sign that said, "Painting strictly prohibited" on the mountain. But as you can see behind me here, people have not really listened to those warnings. So, I personally think, though, that's kind of nice. It's kind of interesting. You don't usually see a lot of this. Naturally, I'm all about things staying natural. But, I don't know. Every once in a while, you get quite a bit of graffiti, add some color to stuff like Lover's Leap back at my home. But anyways, we're going to catch our breath here just for a couple minutes and get to the actual summit. So unfortunately, any voiceovers I did while on the peak of the mountain were a victim to the wind that day. But really all I was saying is that this is a absolutely beautiful overlook. So if you are in the Hiawassee area, definitely take the few minutes of a drive up to the top of Bell Mountain. It's truly like you are just on this peak in the middle of a crater, because you're much higher than the valleys below you, but just beyond those valleys are just walls of mountains on every side of you. And it's just a truly beautiful view, a 360 panorama of Hiawassee, Georgia, and Hayesville, North Carolina, and absolutely perfect views of Chattahoochee Lake in the valley below. So, yeah, definitely take a trip to the top of Bell Mountain if you are in the Hiawassee, Georgia area. Okay, so I didn't film all the way coming up the mountain, but just to share this with you all, we're going to film going all the way back down. Now, my phone is about dead, so we're going to just stick to the actual camera, so it might be a little bit shaky, forgive me for that, but I hope you enjoy this a little bit. Alright, so as I said, I have driven up mountains far higher in elevation, over twice as high as this Bell Mountain. But that is climbing, I'd say probably close to 17 or 1800 feet in just over a mile. I mean, that's a pretty steep grade right there, and I really didn't think we were going to make it up. Not near as bad going down, just shoved it into low gear, and this downhill assist, or whatever it's called on this, really helped matters, but that going up was definitely something else. But I think we're going to go ahead and get something to eat tonight and head back to the hotel and crash, as we've been up for over 16 hours now and it's still daylight out and got a lot of ground to cover tomorrow. So try to get some rest so we can see as much as we can tomorrow without sleeping the day away.